Hi, I'm Carl Franklin. This is the fourth part of a multi-part series on building a podcast client app with Xamarin Forms. In part 3, we converted our app, which started out with the blank template, to a new version using the Xamarin Forms shell template. In this episode, we're going to create a new detail page, which we will access with shell navigation. So stick around, because shell navigation is coming right up on the .NET Show. Well, in part 3, we created a new shell app from the mobile DNR logic. Remember, mobile DNR was our simple application that we created. And then in part 3, we created a new application called .NET Rocks, which is a shell application. So we get some navigation and some other good stuff. It's more state-of-the-art Xamarin Forms. And let's just remind ourselves what this app looks like. So there you go. After everything loads up, you get a scrolling page with all of the, with the first 20 .NET Rocks episodes, and you can load more shows. And then you can pick any one of these, like this one about Build 2021. We can just play it. There you go. And it's playing, and we can stop. But that's not what we want. What we really want is we want to see more details about the episode when we click this button and navigate to another page which has all of this information plus the guest information, and we want to be able to play it from there. So the main page is just going to have this simple information, the title, the date, the number, the description, and then when we press the button, we want to navigate to a new page to be able to play it. So that's what we're going to do today. Now, the first thing let's do is delete these old projects. We'll remove Mobile DNR. We'll remove Mobile DNR Android and Mobile DNR iOS because we simply don't need them anymore. Those were training wheels to get us to where we are right now. So next, we're going to create a detail view in the Views folder. So I'm going to right-click on the Views folder, or I could do Control-Shift-A to add a new item. I'm going to go down to Xamarin Forms, Content Page, and it's going to be called Detail Page. We're going to leave this here just for a few minutes and go over to this guy right here, App Shell XAML. So App Shell XAML has got a bunch of stuff about the visual hierarchy and navigation, and it basically is where we can define these flyout items, as we saw in part 3. So these flyout items become, navigable pages, if you will. So I'm going to add a flyout item for our detail page. So now we have 2. And notice that the icon for details is the icon _ about. Where is that, you say? Well, here in Drawable, icon about, icon feed, and those are in each section. Same thing. So those are just available to us. You, of course, can add your own icons. That's the whole point. Now, this isn't enough, this flyout item, to create something that's navigable. We have to actually register routes if we're going to use the routing in the shell navigation. And how you do that is, let's go to App Shell XAML CS. And now this is the code behind for App Shell XAML, right? And we're going to add 2 lines of code here. One for the home page, one for the detail page. Register route. Register route takes a string and a type. So the string is going to be home page, but I'm using name of just to be safe. and type of home page. So this sort of pattern is what you would use. Next, we need a view model for our new detail page. I'm going to start at the view model. I'm going to add a class called detail page view model. I don't know, it just came to me. All right, and I'm just going to paste a whole bunch of stuff in here, and we'll go over it, top to bottom. So the home page view is giving up all the code to download and play a podcast episode. And you can see that the detail page is taking over that responsibility. So in the detail page, we've added this property, current show, which is of type show, and all of the information about that show, including the file URL, is in that show, right? Look at this, current show, show details, file URL. Anywhere where we were accepting a URL before, such as play and perform play, remember, let's go over to the home page view model, because as it is right now, it's still set up to play. And look at this. So the play command, if you remember, takes a string. The URL, we passed it in, because this is how we identify the file we want to play, right? And so download file takes a URL, perform play takes a URL, but we're doing away with those arguments here because everything comes from this current show. So the goal is to, when we navigate to the detail page, somehow that current show has got to get populated. So I'll tell you how we do that in a minute. But a couple other things. If you look at perform stop is now public. And the reason for that is when we navigate back to the main page from the detail page, we want to call perform stop in the view model. There's a couple of bugs that I fixed too. One is in the caching logic right here, because most of the time you can count on the file name at the end of a URL to be unique. But in the case of .NET Rocks, all the MP3 files are called stream.mp3. And it's the subfolder that's unique. It's actually a GUID. So basically, if I cached according to the logic in home page view model, right, with the URL, every single file would be cached as stream.mp3. And so every file would be playing the same thing. It's no bueno. So what we're going to do here instead is get the directory name from segments, and then we get the file name from the URL, which is going to be stream. And then I create this MP3 file name, which is the directory name. Take off the trailing slash, and then the file name. So it's going to essentially be some GUID stream.mp3, right? So it's more unique. Another bug that I fixed is down here in current underscore position changed. Remember, this happens with the media manager, cross media manager. As we're playing a file, we want to show the time remaining. And this is exactly what I was doing over in the homepage view model. If you take a look, I was only showing the minutes and seconds. Well, what about shows that go over an hour? Yeah, that's a bug. So if there's hours, then I'm showing the hours. And if there's no hours, I'm just showing the minutes. And I'm sort of assuming that minutes are always going to be greater than 0. All right, now let's fill out the detail page view. So our binding context is now the detail page view model. And since that has only one show attached to it, the binding is much more simple. So if you see, I've got in the view model an is playing, right? And I also have a stop and a play action. But if I want information from the show, such as the title, I just use current show.show title, current show.show number, date published, description. It's all very simple. Now, where does that show number come from? Well, let's pass a parameter to this page. And yeah, the detail page needs to know the show number so it can download all the details which would be displayed. And one thing that's cool about shell pages, they can accept parameters just like web pages can, but you have to do a little plumbing to make that happen. So we're going to go into the code behind page for detail page XAML. Now this isn't the view model, this is the code behind. All right, so this is the page itself. And we're going to just make a couple of modifications. Well, quite a few. First thing you'll notice is this attribute right here, query property. So this essentially is accepting a parameter. This is like a parameter in Blazor, for example. So the name of the query property is show number. If you take a look at the signature, it wants a name and a query ID. So these are both strings, and I'm just making them the same, taking a cue from my friend James Montemagno. He says just keep it easy, make them the same, but also use name of, just in case the name of that property changes or something like that. So we're using name of for both of them. So this is all you have to do with this pattern. All right, now I've got a public show number property, got my API service because I'm going to use that to call. And now on appearing, I'm going to try to parse the show number property, remember, because that is now a parameter, and get the integer result. So show number property has to be a string, parameters have to be strings, and now I'm converting that to an integer and getting the result. Now the binding context is the detail page view model. That's how the XAML set it up, right? So all I have to do is cast that to detail page view model to get the view model object. And the view model object has a current show, which I'm setting to the result of this API call, get show with details, which doesn't exist yet, but it will in just a minute. And also passing the result, which is the show number. Now the reason we made perform stop public is right here. On disappearing happens when we go back to the main page. And in that case, if we're playing something, we want to shut up. Otherwise, cacophony would ensue. Now let's fill in this get show with details API call. That's up in services, API service, and we'll just add it right here. Now the actual API server does have this endpoint, get with details, so it's already set up there, no problems. All right, now let's change the home page view model. Simplify, simplify, simplify. We have our API service. All right, we still have our list of show numbers and records to read and last show number, but now we're only just really going to display the shows. So we're not going to do any playing here. So you can see all the playing stuff is gone. And get next batch of shows. This is new right here. Navigate to detail page. All right. So we have an I command, which is actually an async command of int because we're passing that show number. Navigate to detail page. Here's the magic, the route. The route is going to be detail page question mark show number equals and then whatever that show number is. And then we simply say await shell current, go to async, passing the route. Boom, navigation. Finally, we're going to simplify the view, the home page view, with the following. Still have our home page view model. And at the top, we still have our .NET Rocks podcast client, our collection view, all shows. And inside that, we have the show title, number, date, published, string format. And then here's the button for going to the details page. Now, because go to details page is part of the view model and not this particular show, then we have to set the source to home page view model. So before, this is where we did play, and now we're calling go to details page. All right, so let's give it a shot. Here you go. So Now the button says episode details rather than play. And when we click that, watch what happens. Well, didn't make that sound. I just whistled. You can see Cupid with Dan North. Here's the information and the play button. Playing from the cache. Because guess what? I've done this before. That's right. So all of the caching logic is still in there, right? So if I were to kill my internet connection and try this again, if it was cached, it would play. If it was not cached, it would do nothing. That's where we are right now. Now, how can we enhance this? Well, there's one little glitch with the code as written, and it can be in a state where you select an episode and the data doesn't display right away because it's loading it up, but the play button is visible and clicking it results in an error. So what we need is a Boolean property on the detail page view model, which we can use to tell whether or not to display the UI. Here's the detail view model. Let's just put it right here. Is ready. And is ready is just a Boolean. And remember, because we're using the base view model class from James's excellent MVVM helpers, then we just call set property, and that takes care of all the iNotify property change stuff automatically. So now let's go to current show. When current show is set, which remember is set from here on appearing, right? The code behind. When that is set, first we'll say is ready is false. And then after loading, we'll say is ready is true. Now we have to change our UI to look at is ready and to bind to it. So it's interesting. I have one stack layout here in the detail view that just has this, show title and play button and all that stuff. But I need an outside stack layout. So here's what we have. An outside stack layout, because you can only have one main control in the content, right? A grid, a stack layout, something like that. Only one. But inside there, I'm going to have two. One when is ready is true, all this, and another when is ready is false. Remember our inverse bool converter? Yep. So when is ready is false, we're going to show this label loading, ... And when is ready is true, then we'll show the blah, 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 everything including the play and the stop button. All right, so now let's continue adding stuff to our detail view. In this case, I want to add the guest information. So guests come from currentshow.guests, which is a list of guests. So there can be more than one. So here's what I'm doing with that. Notice I've got a scroll view here, and I'll tell you why I'm doing that first. But I've got my stack layout with all the information here. And I've got a collection view for guests, right? And inside there, I'm going to show a line that's a gray line that goes all the way across the screen. And I'm going to show the photo in an image, and then the name and the bio, right? And that's going to repeat for each guest. So this line turns out to look so good that I actually want to add it over here in the main page under the episode details button to separate out all of the episodes. Now, why the scroll view? Well, before I found the scroll view, once we got down to this collection view, all of the guest information would scroll independently of the rest of the page. And that's not what I want. I want to scroll the entire page, including the show number, the date published, the title, the description. I want all of that to scroll, not just the guests. Okay, so to do that, I wrap the whole thing in a scroll view. And below the scroll view, I have the stack layout that shows loading, right? But all of those have to be enclosed in a single stack layout. But now my scroll view is the guy that's visible, is bound to is ready. So let's see what that looks like. Yeah, I like that line. It definitely tells me that, you know, this is sort of like a box, right? And that this episode details is for this show. Let's scroll down to one where there's more than one person. I think it's this one right here. Yeah, Simon, Anthony, and Andy, show 1739. If I look at the episode details here, there you go. Now I've got 3 guests with their name and bio, and the whole thing scrolls. And play still works and all that stuff. Well, this is where we're going to leave things for today. In the next part, we're going to enhance this play button a little bit. We're going to have, you know, some sort of slider or something like that. And we'll probably do playlists as well. So don't miss that one. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Thanks for watching. Please visit blazertrain.com and the .netshow.com for more great content.